put this one together pretty quick. What the hell, kid?
I know. I was doing three things at the same time.
Well,
Sorry.
Yeah. That's why I have to get you coffee. You're so busy. Let me read this for everybody. The owner of Right Way Liquor Store had its license revoked during a hearing that took place at Tuesday's City Council meeting. The council also voted unanimously to suspend the use of the property at 1750 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive for a year. Guests on Keel heard via the Jack Spring Electric Keel Newsmaker hotline. Attorney Dhu Thompson is joining us. Mr. Dhu, thank you for taking time for us this morning. How are you involved in all of this? Tell us what the deal is.
Well, thank you for having me today and giving us the opportunity to tell our side of the story to the public. And I was approached by the store owner who indicated that the city council was trying to suspend his license for certain service calls and crime incidents that occurred on his property. But as we argued to the city council and we continue to push forth in the district court appeal, our position is that there was not any evidence that was produced by the city council or with any of these complaints that showed that my client was connected in any way or did anything to encourage the service calls or criminal activity that took place on his premises. If anything, he was making service calls to end the loitering and any other incidents to get it off his property, which showed an increase in service calls, but then he was turned around and punished for having such a high amount of volume service calls. But
was he not cited for selling to minors?
He was cited, I believe, one or two times for that, but was subsequently the charges were dismissed in district court. And again, Aaron, if that's the standard, I think you could point to every business in town that does volume sales, and every one of them has probably at some point or another been tricked by a minor or given a fake ID or something and been ticketed with that charge. So that in and of itself is not reflective of negligence on his part.
Let me ask you about another liquor store he operated without a city license, I believe on Juella. Explain that, because that was another incident that brought up that he was actually selling alcohol without having the proper licenses in place. What happened there?
Correct. And in that, again, that's somewhat skewed for the public, and everybody's thinking, oh, well, he's operating without a license. That's not necessarily correct. He had applied for both his state and his city liquor licenses. He had received his state license, and his city application was processed, and he had called the city and requested the updates, was told that they were processing, and he was under the impression that with the state license already in place and with his city application pending that he was good to go. So, again, there was no malintent in this whole entire process, and he's always been a store owner who's tried to do the right thing, work with law enforcement, and to have his licenses in place.
So just to clarify, Mr. Dhu, pardon me, just to clarify, you're not saying that the troubles that occurred on this site occurred. What you're saying is that your client, in this case, the store owner, did everything he could along the way to help out, to make things more orderly, and that the city council overstepped.
Well, look, just like we presented to the city council, we indicated that he's added extra surveillance systems to his shop. He had offered to put a full-time security guard on the premises. He voluntarily agreed to reduce his working hours to try to do anything to combat this, because he doesn't want to deal with this any more than any other store owner wants to do. But to that extent, sometimes there's nothing that these store owners can do. If a criminal wants to commit a criminal act. I mean, there's incidents that occur at the Mall of Louisiana that, we're not going to sit here and blame the mall for, but there was a homicide that occurred inside the mall. There was a couple that was abducted and I believe burned in their car. There's been armed robbery incidents. There's been thousands of service calls there, but I don't think anybody's prepared to say, well, we're going to shut down the Mall St. Vincent, over those acts. But
what are you requesting?
This standard, that's what would happen.
What are you requesting in your lawsuit, Dhu?
In my lawsuit, I am asking the district court judge at this point to put a temporary restraining order to not enforce the license until we can have a full evidentiary hearing at the district court. Because if you shut my client's business down, he stands to suffer severe financial loss that he'll never be able to recoup, and that will be immediate and irreparable harm. So we're asking the district court judge to just hold everything in place, let him continue to operate under the measures that he put in place to try to reduce the calls for service, and let us have a full evidentiary hearing, which I'm confident that when we get to district court and we actually apply facts and evidence to this situation, that logic and justice is going to prevail.
So the store remains open. What's the time frame if you're not able to get the injunction to halt the city council action? What kind of time frame is he, the owner, looking at?
Well, if the district court judge does not grant the restraining order, then once he receives his certified letter notice that his license is suspended, then he must cease his business activity.
We're talking to Dhu Thompson, the attorney for the owner of the Right Way Liquor Store on Martin Luther King Drive, who's been his liquor license has been suspended by the city council for a year. Let me speak for the neighborhood, because you and I know what their complaints are. Their complaints
Sure.
are on that stretch of Martin Luther King. I think they said there are 12 liquor stores, and they say there's nothing comparable like it in the city. You feel their pain, don't you? I mean, you feel the fact that the only businesses that seem to thrive in some neighborhoods, some parts of our city, are liquor stores, which they say are harmful to their community. How do you respond to that?
Well, again, what I don't want to have set in place here is that, store owners are being blamed for things that they don't have any control over. And what I argue to the city council, and I continue to argue in place here, is that, with a store there, with these security measures in place, my position is that that's going to be better than having a vacant building there, which attracts, criminal activity at times. My fear is that if we take this step in place, then all we're doing is creating a vacant building and lot, and then any individual that wants to commit crime or loiter, they're just going to move to another location, and you're just going to be in a never-ending process of shutting down businesses to the point where the only people that are going to be able to sell liquor is Thrifty Liquor and Brookshire's and Sam's. So I just don't think that that's fair for small business owners to be subjected to that standard when there's other measures that could probably be put in place to ward off any individuals that want to see criminal activity.
Just about a minute, Mr. Dhu. If you get your injunction, which I guess you're optimistic about that, what's the city council's move? What do you anticipate? They're just not going to go, you win. Okay.
Oh, no. I anticipate we're going to have a full fight at the district court level. And so, I know they're going to come in and object and, seek to answer our lawsuit and have a full-fledged hearing. So that's our anticipation, and we're already gearing up with evidence. We're gearing up with the statistics to show, other areas in town, other gas stations that have way more service calls, way more violent crime incidents than my client station. And again, if the standard is to shut them down based on that, I fear for many small business owners.
Okay, Ron Machota represents the owner of the building. Is he filing suit too? Will y'all join together? Have y'all had discussions about that? Because the owner cannot use the building now for a liquor store for anybody else either, correct?
That is correct. And again, if you take it a step further in logic, I mean, that is extremely unfair. You're now punishing an individual that just owns the building and leases it to a tenant for the actions of the tenant. So to that extent, I think that's grossly unfair, and I feel that the district court is going to give remedy to the property owner as well. Again, it sets a horrible precedent and standard, and if that's the case, there's many small business owners out there that better buckle up, because their business is next.